welcome back to this week's episode of the Broken Kid Podcast. Today we are back with another crazy story, and if you like the crazy stories and you want them to keep on coming, go ahead, leave a like or subscribe or do something, or even better, don't do anything, because I hate telling people what to do, especially because I'm an that's funny. Anyhow, if you like the crazy stories, stay tuned. There's going to be more of them. Look throughout my YouTube channel if you want to hear more of those crazy stories, but more of them are to come. But this is a crazy story, as you've heard, as you've seen in the thumbnail, and it's regarding about the craziest, let's just put it this way, the craziest that I've ever met. God, where do I start with this? So anyhow, I've known this guy for about almost 2 years, 2.5 years. Now you might be wondering, where do I know him from? Well, I know him from In-N-Out. Now here's my story, not my story. I sound like I'm doing one of those like sad interviews. Like I fell into prostitution and I fell through the cracks and I did drugs and heroin and crack and I stole from everyone. No, that is not what this is. So as somebody who was like extremely autistic to the point where I'll probably never get a girlfriend and I'll probably die alone and I'll probably end up doing the same thing every day because autistic people need their routine. Well, about 3 years ago I started, I don't know where this came from, but I felt bad, like it was the only thing standing between me and suicide, and that whole thing was In-N-Out. But I decided to go to In-N-Out, and I would go there like after work, and then it became like a 2 days a week, and then it became going 2 times a day for 3 times a week, and then eventually it was it morphed into going every day, twice a day, and that hasn't really stopped. That hasn't stopped for the last 3 years. Now you may be wondering, where do I have all that money to go to pretty much do that? Well, I don't know. I guess the In-N-Out gods are blessing me. But anyhow, what happened is I became this regular. I ended up becoming a regular at In-N-Out. I ended up becoming quite good friends with the manager there, and I know everyone there. Everybody knows my name. But anyhow, as you become a regular at a certain place, as you do at any place, you start to get used to the people, and people start to know your name. And about like a year and a half ago, probably 2 years ago now, this weird interaction happened where this one Indian kid, his name is Raj, he ended up sitting next to me, and there was a what do they call that? The mutual friend, or the mutual acquaintance, I should say. I was talking to him, to the mutual acquaintance that we both knew, and because he just pulls up, Raj, crazy, the one who I'm going to tell you is crazy, and he comes in, and he's like, I'm gonna go ahead and see here, is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, look, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've known about you for a year, but I don't know your name. And I'm like, okay. And that was that. If you don't think that's a crazy introduction to somebody, then I don't know what is. There's also meeting Ted Bundy at a beach and him telling you to get in his Volkswagen and you never see the day of light again. But that's neither here nor there. And then months go by, and by months I mean about 2 years, and I started getting more and more accustomed to the people. I start liking the people. They start knowing my name, and the manager gives me all these cool things that only employees can get. But anyhow, it gets crazy because I don't know what the hell. So as you get comfortable with people, you start to kind of, I would make my jokes. Like, I would make jokes about jazz cabbage, and because YouTube is so sensitive, I can't say what jazz cabbage is. You'll have to go ahead and look that up. But anyhow, like within the last about 8 months or so, I don't know what happened. I guess destiny brought us together. And I slowly started talking to him, and look, I'll tell you why, but thank God I only see this guy like once a month or once every 3 weeks. But, over those 8 months, I would talk to him, and one of the things he would, he was just crazy. Like, I remember, for those of you who don't know what a sapiosexual is, it's nothing horrible. Trust me. A sapiosexual is somebody who is attracted to people via their intelligence first, and then they get attracted to them. And I was making this like self-deprecating joke because I joke with everyone there, and I said, yeah, I struggle I struggle finding a relationship because I think I'm one of those people who I like to have large talks, not small talk, but deep conversations. And I was like, I might even be a sapiosexual. And I was like, a sapio. I explained to him, I'm talking to Raj at this point, and I would have some of the weirdest conversations with him. And one of the things that he would do is like, if you know In and Out the format, they're pretty much all the same. But I would sit at the two-seater that's right alongside the literally right next to the drink station. And what he would do is he would like I would be sitting here, he would come and he would like sit like this right next to me. Like he would like sit like this. I don't know if you could see me, but he would do this thing like this, like for, like a few feet away. And if you're a manager, that's the last thing you want to see. And if you know anything about In and Out, you know that they take their job very serious. They're like the military of a restaurant. They're like the SEALs of restaurant. They know how to get the job done. Now this motherfucker, I don't know how he got a job there, but last I heard, we were talking to a few people. It was this whole ordeal. We were like roasting him. Like it's a good thing. Like holy shit. We were roasting him. He might as well have been in an oven, and he might as well have been from a different origin, because holy crap, the things we were talking about. Now, if you haven't watched my last video, I suggest you watch it. But to sum it up quickly, I'm gonna give you the brief story. About 3 weeks ago, I ended up. He was telling me, because look, you slowly start to get comfortable with people, and sometimes you get comfortable with the wrong person, and sometimes the people that you don't want to get comfortable with you end up getting comfortable with you, and they end up telling you crazy bullshit stories. And he would tell me things like, he would be like, my mom kicked me out for 2 weeks, and he would be like, oh, so and so, and then he would give you all these like hard luck, like his hard luck story. And I'm like, you're 18, and I know you're Indian, and there's like all these things that are against you in terms of like what your parents expect of you. And then he told me he was like bisexual, and I'm like, well, that's not good. Not to me, it is. To me, it's I accept him, but like for his parents, it's not. Anyhow, about 3 weeks ago, I felt like he was telling me about how he felt horrible and how he was in a state of depression, and how I was like, oh, don't, I'm sorry, like, we've all been there. Most of us have been depressed. If not, you're a lucky son of a bitch, and you probably don't know what the real world is like. And I was giving him like positive talk. I was like, oh, Raj, don't do that. People would miss you. And little did I know that when we were having that roast session among ourselves, it was 2 employees who worked there, but they were like off the clock for an In and Out meeting, and I happened to catch them at a great time, and we were just talking, and I was telling them the whole story. The whole story is this. I'll give you the summarized version if possible, which I probably won't be able to. But anyhow, there we are. I'm talking to these employee managers, and one of them had already knew the story about how I invited him to go to the movie theaters with me to see Scream 7, and how much of a debacle it was, because it's like having a little brother who was hit in the head with a wrench. In other words, he's not very smart, but it's all good. I'm having to explain the whole. Apparently, this was his first horror movie, which to me is just baffling, because I don't even know how that's possible. I don't know how you go at 19 years old without having seen a horror movie, because when I was 13, I was experiencing real life horror movies that I can't even get into on YouTube because they're too gruesome. But anyhow, I take him to I say I take him because I felt like having a little brother, but I'm explaining the whole movie to him, and he's making me be the guy that I don't want to be, that one person in the theater who's talking and chitter-chatting. And like I remember we were doing during the opening scene, for those who have seen Scream 7, I was telling him, oh, these movies, they always open up with a murder, and it always opens up with a girl with blonde tits, with big tits and blonde hair getting murdered. And what happens? It's her boyfriend and a girl with big tits and blonde hair. And after the scene ends, that opening sequence, and they both die, I look over at him and I said, see, I told you, always a blonde girl with big tits that gets killed. And he's like, well, technically it was the boyfriend who got killed. And I'm like, Raj, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna turn this whole theater into a fucking horror movie in and of itself. Come on, Raj. And we get through the movie, and thank God the movie was good because I was able to get focused on the movie and not have to talk to him. But fast forward, we get out. As we're leaving the theater, there's this hidden like staircase it's outside, but it's for the employees to go in and out of. But you have to have a key to get in, like an actual physical key. There was a pair of like 15-year-old kids who were about to do like lewd sexual acts, and I'm walking and I look to the right and I see them. So all I do is just ignore them and just look away because I'm like, okay, that just be in my head. I'm like, okay, just be grateful that you didn't see anything exposed because that would have been worse because these kids are underage. And he looks and he's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh. And he's having this like mental breakdown for 3 minutes. He's like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I'm like, those kids are practically like 3. And I'm like, dude, I was like, Raj, calm down. It's a good thing we didn't see any exposed parts because that would have been worse because we're older than them and we're of age and they are not. That would have put us in a much trickier situation. What you do is what I thought what we both would do and anybody would do is, hey, look, they're kids. They're doing their thing right then and there. Let's just look away and give them their space because what are we gonna do? Give them a talk about not to do it? First of all, I don't care enough. Second of all, sex is reality. But apparently not to this kid. And he was telling me about how, he practically just confirmed that he's gonna die a virgin, which to me, I mean, I kind of pictured that. But holy, that hangout was the hangout from hell. And it was a whole hell of a story. And then he dresses like from the waist down, he dresses like a school shooter, like in all black baggy pants, like Dickies kind of. And then he wears these big boots that are like thick and tactical. And I'm like, Raj, you don't wear that. Like, he wears these Hawaiian shirts from the top up. He looks like he just came out of the 80s and not in a good way. Like, it's almost like, Raj, you need to get like, I don't know if any of you have seen that movie, Crazy Stupid Love, but if you have, it's about an ass coach who practically gets, Ryan Gosling is an ass coach to this middle-aged man, Steve Carell, who gets no pump whatsoever, and his wife divorced him and teaches him how to become a player. And I'm like, I'm not saying I'm a good pickup coach, but I'm saying, like, I could teach you a few things about how to not act like a damn fool. But I was like, that would take a lifetime. And that whole like I even during that period, like afterwards, like 40 minutes later, we after walking in the mall and stuff, it's already late, and I'm like near my car, and I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and light up a cigarette. So I light up a cigarette, and I'm like, he's like, I'm gonna go ahead and step over here so people don't think I'm underage smoking. And in my mind, I'm like, Raj, first of all, it's tobacco, not heroin, and second of all, it's also not weed, which weed is legal, but not in public. But I'm like, this fool does not know a single thing. The amount of times I wanted to slap the dumb out of him to the point where possibly you could get rid of it and put some sense into him was absurd. The other thing, this is where it gets crazy. So I don't see him for about 2 weeks, and somewhere in between there, he sends me these text messages, and he's practically confused about his sexuality. He's saying if he wants to avoid getting drafted into World War III, he's gonna have to become like be an active transition, which to me is fine. I'm very pro-choice. I'm a liberal. I'm probably one of the most liberal people you're gonna meet. But I'm like, come on. I also don't want to get inundated with these types of things because look, maybe I'm not equipped to deal with them. I don't want to hear this. I'm actually in therapy, and my therapist can't even deal with my shit. And that's a motherfucker who went to school to learn how to deal with people who have problems. And how do you think I'm capable of dealing with your stuff when you're telling when I can't even handle my own? Well, actually, I can because I'm in therapy and I'm actually attuned to my emotions. But here's the thing: about 2 weeks go by, and I don't see him, and then I go in and out, and this is what happened. I was sitting near my car just like this, like just relaxing, enjoying the sun. And who do I see run? I see him run in his Hawaiian shirt like this. And I'm like, oh God, I hope he doesn't take orders, or I hope he's not in the lobby. And I go and I'm about to order my food, and I'm second in line, and that's when he's like, oh hey Alex, and he's like, so this isn't the first time he's told me this. This is the second time he said this to me. This is how it's not drugs. He's not crazy. This boy is. It's not drugs. He's not eccentric. He's crazy. Like he needs It's a chemical imbalance. As bad as that may sound from my end. Anyhow, I'm there and I'm second in line, and he sees me and he's like, "Oh hey Alex, sorry if I can't smile. I was punching myself in the face before work." And I was like, "Oh, because the first time he told me that, I felt so uncomfortable." And anyhow, this whole thing is just crazy. But going back to the crazy lunatic boy, the crazy lunatic Indian boy, oh my God. I was thinking like, wow, okay, because I needed to know that why. Because you not smiling at me is what makes my day. Is what makes or breaks my day. Like I could go without your smile, and I could have gone without that comment, and I'm scared at this point. At this point, I'm like, this guy is Jeffrey Dahmer. He's in the early stages of Jeffrey Dahmer. He is about to like find a frog, and he's about to mutilate it, and he's about to be like, ah. He's gonna take it home and put it in like some preservative chemical and show it off to all his friends in college, and people are gonna be like, oh, what's wrong with him? And I even asked somebody, I was like, is Raj like is Raj retarded? And they're like, no, Raj is not. No, he's not. I asked another employee some other day after that, and I was like, is he that? And he says no. His name is Josh. Josh says, no. He's just a little slow on picking up on information, which is probably the most polite way of saying somebody is that the R word. And of course I start laughing, but on that day that he had told me that he had punched himself, he was all like, he comes up to me because I'm standing near a booth, waiting for my two-seater that's right next to the soda machine because that's where I sit, and he comes up to me and he's like, hey, you're probably the first person I told this to, but not the other day I took a knife to my leg and I cut it open, and it hurt a lot. And I'm like, yeah, no shit, it's a knife to your skin. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? I'm gonna be an accomplice in a few years to all this. The more you tell me, the more guilty I'll feel. The more guilty I will feel when something bad happens. You are a crazy lunatic. You are a lunatic, and you have a chemical imbalance, and you need to seek psychiatric help. You need to be locked up in a psych ward. And I know they don't do this anymore, but they need to put you in a straitjacket, and they need to tie you down to the walls or some shit, because you're a harm to even a fly. And anyhow, so he comes up to me and he tells me this whole thing, and then he's like, yeah, I sliced my whole arm, my leg open, and then I put some boots to cover it up that were high, and it just made it worse. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, this guy's he's far gone. And I was like, this guy's crazy. I was like, he's crazy. He's sexually confused. He loves Dungeons and Dragons. He doesn't know what sex is. He's probably gonna die a virgin. And here's what I'm getting at: this guy, this motherfucker, he's probably gonna become a school shooter. He's either gonna he's gonna do something, cause he's gonna do something crazy, because he's like he goes by they them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But one of these days, somebody in college is gonna be like, "Oh, he did it. It was him. It's his turn." And he's gonna be like, "No, come here, he." And he's gonna go home, and he's probably I saw his Instagram pics, because me and the two people who were roasting him, holy shit, we were roasting his Instagram. And he was telling me about one of the guy. It was a guy and a girl who I know, and we're pretty comfortable. We're pals. And I was telling him about he was telling me about his Instagram page and how unfortunately he follows it. And he also does cosplay, which is more than enough to know that he's crazy. And he was one of my friend. He was telling me about it, and he sent me a message on Instagram through messages about something on Instagram, the crazy lunatic Raj. And of course, I click on it, and when you click on it, it tells you who sent it to you, and if you'd like to click on their profile and follow them. For about 4 days, I did not do that until my friend told me about his webpage on Instagram, and I click on it, and it looks like one of those pictures before a school shooter becomes a school shooter. There is a look in this lunatic where it is just a matter of time before he gets crazy, before he's like, I'm, and I don't think this is funny. I'm saying this as a PSA. If you, like, I don't know what I can do. I can't do anything. I can't do anything. Go to the cops and say, trust me, this guy's crazy. Like, they're gonna be like, yeah, based on what proof? Based on hearsay? And it's like anybody could tip the police and they might believe it. And we all saw what happened to Afroman. They gave an anonymous tip that there was people kidnapped in their house, and there wasn't any. And I mean, looking at that, I was like, holy shit. And I don't tell my mom a lot of things just because that's the relationship we have. It's nothing sad. It's just, you just the relationship we have. But this, I had to share it with her, and I shared all the details. She's like, why? She's like, oh my God, why do you want to hang out with somebody like that? And I'm like, I don't want to. She's like, then don't. And I'm like, I'm not gonna. And on that day when he told me about the slashing of his foot, he kept on coming up to me and talking to me, and I was like this. And I was like, sometimes I was forced to engage in conversation with him, but I was still like this. And then he asked me, he's like, if you want, I was like, I think I said something like, oh, it's hot outside. And he's like, yeah, it is. And he was asking about my thermos. And I was like, yeah, it keeps it cold, or it keeps things hot. And he's like, well, I left my water bottle in my car and my headphones in my car, so by the time I get it, it's going to be hot. But hey, if you want, I can give you my keys and you can get them for me. I'm like, I ain't your... We're not tight like that. Get the fuck out of here. And all I did was just, I just did this. I was like, hoping he would leave. And, I was like, God, and I was asking people, I was like, is he normal? Like, do you think he's normal? And a lot of people who I asked were like, he is crazy. And I was like, yeah, he is. And I told him what he said to me. And I'm like, this is psychotic. This is crazy as hell. This is some bullshit. Like, in a few years, this is why I don't want to talk to him. Because if he does become a school shooter, which I know he will, this is a thing. This is like an unspoken rule. Friends of school shooters are just as guilty as the school shooter, because they saw the signs and they said nothing. And I don't want to be in an interview when he shoots up a school and they're like, so Alex, how long did you know Rajat Patel? And I'll be like, oh, I knew him for 5 years. And then they're going to be like, did you see any disturbing behavior? And I'll be like, well, I heard about him getting kicked out and his confusion with his sexuality, and how that was a topic of discontent with his parents. And he would tell me about how he would like gash his limbs open. And I'll be like, so you did know? And I'm going to be on the news and be like, I was 25 when I entered this interview. Now I'm like 70, like, because of how long this interview, like, it's gonna feel forever. So I don't want to be a part of it. And in a few years, there's gonna be some guy named Raj on the news for an attempted murder of something. And if you don't know the case of Elliot Rogers, look it up. He is just like him. Now, on a positive note, there really isn't any positive note. But to try to end this, be careful who you make friends with. Please be careful. You don't know who you're talking to. You really don't. You think you're being nice and you're befriending somebody who's gonna be a cool person, but you just don't know until you hang out with them. And if somebody's crazy, don't be polite and hang out with them, because I've known people who hang out with people who they don't like, but they're not crazy. They're just like annoying. It is not an excuse. Trust me, you're better off without them. I'm not going to be his friend. I'm not going to be his only friend. He's going to have no friends. I don't want to be anywhere near him. In fact, me talking about this is just enough. So we're going to go ahead and cut it off there. As me, I forgot to say something. If I was in high school and there was a school shooter, I would just leave. I would just leave. I would say, fuck these people. I don't care about them at all. And you should too. But if your crush is there and you feel like you're gonna marry her, which you probably aren't because it's a high school relationship and she probably doesn't even care about you, leave that bitch behind. And that's it.